agencies of the district government and labor organizations representing agency employees. The board consists of 5 members, which are appointed by the mayor and with the advice and consent of the council. The board is responsible for determining appropriate compensation and non-compensation bargaining units, certifying and decertifying labor organizations as exclusive bargaining representatives, adjudicating unfair labor practice complaints, considering appeals of grievance and arbitration awards, and investigating standards of conduct complaints. And now I will ask Ms. Martin, Clarine Martin, who is the director of this important agency, to raise her right hand, and we'll swear her in for her testimony. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements made before us today to be truthful and complete?
I do.
Thank you very much, and please proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds, and any committee members that might be listening but not on the Zoom. I am Clarine Martin, Executive Director of the Public Employee Relations Board. With me today are our agency fiscal officer, Paul Blake, our agency operations manager, Crystal Davis, and also joining us is Royale Sims, who is our supervisory attorney advisor. As stated, the Public Employee Relations Board is an impartial, quasi-judicial, independent agency empowered with the exclusive jurisdiction to resolve labor management disputes between agencies of the district government, district employees, and labor organizations representing employees of the district agencies. The 5-member board was created pursuant to Section 501 of the District of Columbia Comprehensive Merit Personnel Act of 1979, empowering the board to determine appropriate compensation and non-compensation bargaining units, certify and decertify labor organizations as exclusive bargaining representatives, adjudicate unfair labor practice complaints, consider appeals of grievance arbitration awards, investigate standard of conduct complaints, determine whether a particular subject or proposal is within the scope of bargaining, facilitate the resolution of impasses in contract negotiations, and adopt rules and regulations for conducting the business of the board. Consistent with these responsibilities, the board is authorized to issue subpoenas, conduct hearings, seek judicial enforcement of its orders, and retain independent legal counsel to represent its interest. PERB statutory mandates require us to resolve equally. PERB's statutory mandates require us to respond equally to all requests on a timely basis. PERB's proposed FY24 budget is $1,407,004. The budget will allow PERB to meet all of its responsibilities. It provides funding for the executive director, 5 attorney positions, the operations manager, program analyst, and a senior staff assistant. It further provides stipends for our 5 board members. It allows for a slight fee increase for hearing examiners who conduct hearings and mediations. Also, it allows adequate funding for the services of outside legal counsel for the appellate defense of board decisions. At this time, the budget allows PERB to continue its well-regarded labor relations training of the district's union officials and also managers. This concludes my testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before this committee. At this time, I am ready to respond to any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And as you can imagine, we have very few questions, but just want to make sure we put on the record that you have an operating budget and that you have personnel that are respond under your direction, and that sounds like we're going to continue the training. And so all of this is good. And that's pretty much what your budget contains. I wanted to ask just a few questions. To date in the FY23 budget, it's noted that expenditures of a little over $1,000 were used for contractual services. And in your testimony, you indicated that you have resources in the event you have to have contracted employees in order to adjudicate some of the complaints that you get. And so I wanted to understand why just $1,000? I would expect that more would have been expended given the nature of your work.
I'm not quite sure what is she talking about. We've spent more than $1,000 on contractual services.
For FY23 thus far, you've spent more than 1,000?
Yes, in FY23, we've already spent $25,200 for 8 mediations, 15 pre-hearing conferences, and 3 hearings.
Okay, that's 8 mediations, 3 hearings, and
15 pre-hearings. We have, what we do is we set up hearings, but so the parties can be prepared for the hearing, we also have a pre-hearing. So we pay the hearing examiner, and the pre-hearings are conducted. The hearings are conducted by hearing examiners along with pre-hearings. And so we've had 15 pre-hearing conferences and 3 hearings already in the already this fiscal year as of March 14th, 2023.
all right. And where do I find, which category is this contained in, under contractual services, or is it under other services and charges?
Hold on for a second, please.
All righty, sure, thank you.
Where would that be?
Which report are you looking at, Council?
I'm really looking at the extraction from your proposed FY24, with the understanding that you would have used the same categories in FY23. I don't have the schedule before me, but I would have the same categories. And so I just wanted to know which categories they come out of. And let me just sort of explain where I'm trying to go. As you know, budget is tight this year, and I am trying to do everything I can to hold on to the budgets of the agencies under my purview. And so I just want to make sure that I know where to find this, so I can say that already we expended 25,000. And so don't touch whatever is left there is where I'm coming from.
Yeah, well, you can look under, like you said, contractual services.
Okay.
You'll see the expenditure.
Okay. All right. And it shows for FY24, the mayor has proposed the 89,000 from that category. Is that what your records show?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. And so if you've already spent 25, there's a very strong chance that you'll exhaust the total amount in this category during the new FY year, and certainly even now in the current FY year 23.
Yes.
Okay. Now, other services and charges proposed in FY24 are 153,000. Can you give us an idea of how that is used?
Paul, what category is that? Because I don't know.
That's where the Webster.
Oh.
Webster. Yes.
Oh, okay then. Councilmember Bonds, we have a outside counsel, a law firm that handles any appeals of our decisions. And these appeals would be to Spirit. This would be after the board had made a decision and rendered a decision in order. And many times the parties, one party will appeal the board's decision. Many times it can be a union who will appeal it, or it could be the district government who would appeal it. And what we do is we have an outside counsel who has represented PERB for, I would like to say at least possibly 15 to 20 years, who defends us in Superior Court. And then if the party appeals it to the Court of Appeals, they will defend us in the office in the Court of Appeals as well.
All right. And so, well, we will have in this category the 153,000. So that gives us a sense of where to find the monies that are planned for spending. So
yes, but I don't think that their portion of that amount is 150. There must be something else in that too, Paul, isn't it?
it says other services and charges.
Yeah, also the stipends roll up to that category as well.
Are the stipends for the board members?
For the board members, correct.
Okay. And what is the value of each stipend?
The stipend for each board member is $500 per meeting and
Okay.
$600 for the chair.
We discussed that, I remember, during the oversight, and I wanted to make sure I put it in the right category. All right, well, thank you for that. And your agency currently has an MOU with the DC, of course, Human Resources and Octo.
Yes.
And intends, I'm assuming you intend on continuing these services in FY24 as articulated in your budget plan. And what funding category do I find the MOUs? Again, same kind of question.
Paul, you have to answer that question. Where would that be?
Yeah, so now when we formulated the budget, it was done in SOAR. So now it's in DIFs. So in DIFs, we have to create special awards for those interagency agreements. So I could send you a DIFs report where it's broken out into each different agreement. But they're funded, if you're looking at the agency chapter, they're funded from ComSource Group 40.
Okay, Group 40, thank you. That's important, so I can make sure it stays in Group 40 in your agency. So
I don't think
thank
they
you
use
very
that anymore. I don't think they use they don't use comp sources anymore. That's one of the things, they're transitioning over to something else. Isn't that true?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I indicated, that
Right.
we use DIFs now, but the budget was actually made in SOAR. And so we provided your committee with a crosswalk from
Okay.
from SOAR to DIFs.
All right. So the crosswalk is what we should protect. Okay, thank you so much. And let's see. Under what category do you place your staff training and development?
I think that's probably under, is that under 40 as well?
Yeah, that's under 40 as well.
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any concerns about the budget plan that has been submitted on your behalf, Ms. Martin?
There's only one, and that was actually, I asked for increase in salaries of two of my attorneys. And I don't think that was picked up, but I would ask that if possible, that I could get an additional $30,000 in the personnel, under personnel. We have attorneys that are very specialized, and they are actually sought out by other agencies. And I would just like to keep them. It's very competitive out here with lawyers. And so I'd just like to keep them. So these are employees that I've had one for, basically for a year. And they are really due to more than, I would like to take them up to one more grade. And so I would be able to do that with the $30,000.
All right, and where would I find this? Are they separate and apart from your other FTEs? I mean, how do?
They're the same, they're in the same FTE group.
Okay, same group, okay.
Yes.
If we need to get back in touch with you in order to make this happen, I'm sure you'll make yourself available so that we can get this done for you.
Councilmember Bonds, I am always available to you and your staff.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, thank you very much to you and your team. This concludes our examination of your budget, and I'm looking forward to fighting the good fight to make sure that you get those things that you need. And thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Get out of here.
We will now turn to the Department of Human Resources. We'll just give us 1 minute to make the transition. All right, well, thank you all. We're gonna resume and we can get this where it should be. That did it. Yeah, but we shouldn't have to do that. We should be right there. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay. All right, I've got 2 images. So should we have 2? Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to continue our hearing, and the equipment is fighting with us this afternoon, so please forgive us for that. Next, we will turn to the DC Department of Human Resources. It provides human resource management services that strengthen individuals and organizational performance and enables the district government to attract, develop, and retain a well-qualified and diverse workforce. The office offers executive management to district government officials and agencies by providing personnel-related services to help each agency meet daily mission mandates. Moreover, the agency provides district government employees with a variety of services, including employee benefits and compensation guidance, performance management, compliance, audit assessments, legal guidance on personnel matters, and learning and development. And I am going to call the panel of, I'm really going to call the executive director, Mr. Lindsay Maxwell II, so that I can swear him in. Mr. Maxwell.
Good
And
afternoon.
you have staff with you?
Joining me today is Dr. Jim Hurley. He's our agency fiscal officer.
All right. Well, if you both will raise your right hand, we will swear you in. Okay. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements that you make before us today to be truthful and complete?
I do. Yes.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll try to stay on camera. This is a little bit of a challenge again. Okay. Trying again. All right. Mr. Maxwell, we will receive your testimony when you're ready.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds, members of the Committee on Executive Administration and Labor, and committee staff. My name is Lindsay Maxwell. I'm the interim director of the District of Columbia's Department of Human Resources. Thank you for this opportunity to testify on Mayor Bowser's proposed fiscal year 2024 budget and financial plan for DCHR. As a strategic human resources business advisor, DCHR enables the district to meet its governmental responsibilities by ensuring we have a highly talented, diverse, engaged, and committed workforce that serves the district's residents. Our vision is simple: to be the best-in-class human capital organization that puts people first, promotes innovation, and serves as a model for others. The mayor's fiscal year 24 proposed budget and financial plan, entitled A Fair Shot, allocates $24.7 million to DCHR. This represents an 11.6% increase from the approved fiscal year 23 budget. A one-time enhancement proposed by the mayor will allow DCHR to strategically attract and retain key talent by providing hiring and retention bonuses to employees for key hard-to-fill positions such as nurses, engineers, and IT professionals. The mayor's proposed funds for DCHR appropriately balance citywide priorities and ensure we have a talented workforce able to meet those priorities in a fiscally responsible manner. The job market has only grown more competitive, and this growing competition has taught us the importance of innovation. In order to keep and retain employees, we need to build and enhance our personnel tools to create an employee experience that is easy to navigate and easy to understand. With the mayor's proposed funds, we will drive the path forward and keep evolving the way we do business to provide the best-in-class HR services and a best-in-class employee experience. In FY23, DCHR is reinventing our processes by using technology to make services more accessible to our employees. For example, DCHR implemented a 24/7 chat feature on our website that uses machine learning to answer common employee questions. We also digitized the paid family and medical leave application process in our human resources information system, PeopleSoft. The new digital system makes it easier for employees to apply for these important benefits so that they may care for themselves and their loved ones. We also implement a new customer relations management platform that will help us support our workforce in a more effective way. The CRM will allow employees to submit electronic tickets for assistance so they can quickly connect with a DCHR customer care representative who can help them with a wide variety of concerns, such as adding dependents on health insurance, enrolling in short-term disability, and receiving a copy of their employee verification. The system will include service level agreements to ensure that all employee questions are answered in a timely manner. And it allows us to collect data on where we can improve the employee experience. In addition to innovating with the use of technology, DCHR empowers employees by developing and enhancing their skills to adapt to the changing needs and expectations of residents. Thus far in fiscal year 23, we have provided both virtual and in-person instructor-led training opportunities for district government employees on several topics, such as effective business writing, innovative thinking, and public speaking under pressure, to name a few. We also implemented several employee boot camps that develop key skills, such as project management and grant management. At least twice a year, we provide dedicated training opportunities to support our managers. Several weeks ago, we hosted a week-long event for managers to facilitate the completion of their required trainings, including their electives. We are happy to report that over 700 managers participated in this opportunity. We will hold 2 more similar week-long events in July and September, and are planning our 3rd annual Manager Summit, which will focus on manager training and wellness. The proposed fiscal year 24 budget reflects our commitment to employee development and innovation, as well as our commitment to provide opportunities to district residents. With this budget, DCHR will support the city's goals by making district government an employer of choice, both locally and nationally. To that end, we will continue to proactively recruit the best talent by collaborating with local high schools, colleges, and universities, forming and enhancing key partnerships with recruitment and nonprofit organizations, and increasing our social media and marketing presence. We will survey employees to better understand their engagement, expectations, and needs. The results from this survey will guide the development of a strategic recruitment plan. We will also examine positions which are especially difficult to fill and retain, and provide additional financial incentives to employees who occupy these positions. This strategic, proactive approach supports the agency needs and ensures that we have the right talent ready to serve our residents. We recognize that the district has to make difficult financial decisions in 2024. Nonetheless, I can attest that the mayor's budget directly supports DCHR's vision and mission to find and attract district residents to district government jobs, develop employee skills to provide greater and better services, and create a world-class workplace that inspires people to serve as role models for their community and their professional peers. In closing, I am honored to be a steward of the resources allocated to the DC Department of Human Resources. I look forward to our continued work together to achieve our shared goal and to give all residents a fair shot. This concludes my prepared testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I wanted to start with just a few points that you made reference to in the allocation of the $24.7 million proposed FY24 budget. You indicated that you would provide hiring and retention bonuses to employees for key hard-to-fill positions, nurses, engineers, and IT professionals. And I wanted to know, where does the additional incentive that the mayor proposed for the police, is that part of your enterprise, so to speak? And what about social workers and case managers?
So let me be clear. The police department's increases in hard to fill is a little bit different. Police officers, they're funded under our CBA, and so those are not really the positions that we're considering hard to fill at this time. The positions we're considering hard to fill are the other ones that you mentioned: the social workers, the teachers. Those are the folks that we're trying to target that money for on those positions that are hard to fill. We're still working out the details with the mayor's office about how exactly we're going to implement this, but it is a work in progress, and we feel that by having the ability to offer these incentives will certainly help us with our recruitment and retention.
All right, and so the pot of money that you would use for the recruitment and retention of these hard to fill categories, including, as you say, social workers, case managers, teachers, nurses, engineers, and IT, where do I find that in the budget document? I
believe what you're referring to is there was a $2.5 million fund that was set aside for that. But again, we're still working on the details of how we administer that.
Okay, you're working on the details. All right. But these are the categories. Are there any additional categories that are considered hard to fill?
Yeah, we're still working with our agencies to be sure that we accurately capture all those positions that are hard to fill. I know for a fact, though, IT is clearly one. Social workers is clearly another one, but we have some others out there too that we're continuing to work with our agencies to get information on so that we can adequately address any shortcomings in recruitment and retention.
Okay, just wanted to check on that. Then you indicated that you have provided dedicated training opportunities to support our managers and that 700 have gone through this support training. And I wondered, 700, of the 700, how many managers are left to be trained? What's the total universe? You knew I would ask this question.
It's a good question. I honestly have to say I'm a little bit stumped. I don't have an exact answer for you, but the trainings that we offered, or we offer regular training because we expect for our HR professionals and our managers to be adequately trained across the district. And we want them to be trained in a way that's uniform. And so that's the whole goal behind why we offer these classes. There are certain classes that we offer them that are mandatory, and there are certain classes that we offer that are electives. And so we take the time during Managers Week, that's what we call it, during Managers Week, to offer both. So we're able to actually get them all their training in 1 week.
So during this, well, let's go back to, I guess, FY22, which you can account for the entire year. So how many managers were actually took part in your training in FY22?
I believe the number was similar. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I can get that for you.
You think it was 700, about 700? That's a part. Remember, that's a part. You said thus far.
Right. I'll have to get that information for you because I don't have it handy right now in front of me.
All right.
Got it.
And then, of course, the number that have taken part thus far is the 700, correct? In
Right.
FY23.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Now let's get to the questions. Can you talk about your solutions programming and what the agency specific recruiting and staffing plan is? I know you said that you don't have all the details. You're talking with the agencies about what are the hard to fill positions, but just in general, and the timeline that it takes to fill certain types of job descriptions, so to speak.
Sure. So, let me start by saying the touch points here at DCHR when it comes to recruitment are minimal. We're involved in the front end. Of course, you asked about our HRSA team, our HRSA team. That's the team that actually goes through and checks job descriptions, classifications, ensures that the pay is in the right scale. And then we handle the posting. And then we also handle, some of the actual recruitment, the receiving of resumes. Sometimes we rank candidates for the agencies. All of that is done at our HRSA team. One thing that we've noticed, though, is once we get done and we pass that off to the agencies, usually right now, I think on average, we're running around 75 days or so to fill a position, which in our estimation is unacceptable. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to whittle that time down. One of the things that we found, though, councilperson, is that we found that usually where we gum up the system a little bit is in the actual interviewing of candidates. Because as you can imagine, once we've actually sent candidates to an agency, the agency is on its own and doing the interviewing. DCHR doesn't really get involved in the interview process. And so what happens is, and I'm guilty of it here at DCHR and at OLRCB, what we attempt to do is schedule all the interviews like during one day or one specific week, because we know we can get all of the people together at the agency who may need to talk to that candidate or those candidates. We try to block a week for that. So what we found is that, though, the problem with that model is that oftentimes it's hard to get people together in the office for 1 week solid, or to get all the candidates to all agree to come in one day or 1 week to do the actual interviews. And then, of course, if you're doing it at separate times, you're still working with schedules. And so we feel like that's a place where we need to sort of really figure out with our agencies what's the best approach. The other problem that we have that we've seen on time to fill is that there are times when you go through this entire process and, 60 days into the process, you make an offer to a candidate and that candidate, for whatever reason, says, no, thank you. Well, what that means is now sometimes we can go back a step to the next best candidate. Sometimes we have to go 2 steps back to the candidate before that. Sometimes we have to start back at the beginning. And so that obviously doesn't help our hard to fill numbers or our time to fill. And so we're continuing to work with our agencies to figure out ways. We're looking at best practices across the country on how to get that time down. But it's a work in progress, and we'll continue to work hard on it. We want to get that number down as low as we can.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that response. And I must, put on the record that when I see you're moving from approximately 5 million that has been spent over the last 2-3 years to now 8 million for this category, my question is, can you spend it? And Mr. Maxwell, you and I know what time of day it is in our government, and I am trying my very best to hold on to every dollar that is in our agency. So help me with this to make sure that we can hold on to this allocation or this proposed allocation for you, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Your agency, Human Resources, has over 50 MOUs with several agencies across the district. To date, you reported over $3.7 million from contracting with other agencies. And how does the agency spend the profit it receives from these MOUs? As the seller agency?
It's a great question. I wouldn't classify it as profits, but that money, we enter in MOUs. There's a few different types of MOUs. First of all, we have a lot of independent agencies across the district that don't fall under the personnel authority of the mayor. That means they can set up their own personnel systems internally. What happens is those agencies oftentimes, and for good reason, will execute an MOU with us so that we can then provide the agency with many of the supports that they need to actually effectuate what we would consider to be a very legally safe and working HR system. So we sort of step in that gap to ensure that agency policies are together. We help them handle everything from processing, FMLA and all that. We do all of that here. So the MOUs cover that. The other thing MOUs covers, training. The training that I just talked to you about a little while ago, that's part of what is kind of subsumed inside of that that money in the MOUs. Also, we also have some staff salaries that are covered by those MOUs because of the fact that we actually have to dedicate personnel to them. We also use that MOU money for fingerprint. We have a fingerprinting contract. So when we do background checks, or we don't do fingerprints in-house, we actually have an outside contractor. So the MOUs cover that. So many different things that are covered by the MOUs.
All right. And sharing all of that with us, can you tell me where I can find the dollars? Are the dollars spread throughout the different service categories, as I suspect?
Yes, they are.
Okay. All right, so I would have to work with you directly to get that information. And we could not do it in this type of hearing, have to put pen to paper and what have you.
We'd be glad to work with your staff to get you that information.
Thank you very, very much. Under special purpose revenue funds, you received $90,000 for office supplies during this year, FY23, it's approved budget. And now you are saying that you can live with $60,000 in FY24. And I'm asking this question in light of your interest in increasing parts of your budget because of I would say the very specific type of, I guess, recruitment you have to do for these hard to fill positions. So do you see 60,000 in FY24 real, or will you exceed that? And would that be something that the MOU categories could help you with? I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
Why, when you got an increase in service needs, and yet you're taking a $30,000 cut.
Sure. I'm going to defer to Dr. Hurley to answer some of this, if you could, please.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. Yes, for fiscal year 2024, the agency has budgeted $105,000 for supplies and materials. We feel that is adequate, but as you've noted, when the agency executes MOUs, memorandums of understanding with other agencies in fiscal year 2024, we can determine what portion of that MOU money is for supplies and materials, what portion may be for personnel services, or what might be used for other kinds of contractual services. So the details of that can take place as we enter FY24. I think historically the agency has had adequate supplies, but that is a point at which we can make adjustments. I think that will be sufficient for the agency.
All right, so the special purpose revenue funds can interchangeable for how they are spent? Is that what you're sharing with us?
Yes, in terms of supplies and materials or other types of services, but they are limited in the sense that special purpose revenues are only for, dedicated, purposes spelled out in the MOUs. It can only be used for that purpose. And also, I will note too that that money that's provided by other agencies, to the extent it's not utilized, it has to be returned to those agencies. So usually what happens towards the end of the fiscal year, August, September, we look at that, see how much has been utilized. And I will say that DCHR staff is very effective in utilizing the available resources, but to the extent there are any remaining, they would be returned to the agency that provided them initially.
All right, so according to your MOUs, you receive money and for providing Capital City Fellows and District Leadership Program, the DLP interns across the city. Where does the agency put these expenses towards? In other words, do the profits go towards the fellows' salaries, or just trying to understand the relationship?
In short, yes, those dollars are used to pay the fellows.
And at what rate do you pay the fellows? Is there a set hourly stipend rate, or is it annual salary?
It's an annualized amount. I believe, I would have to look it up. I believe it's approximately $55,000 for the salary. We can double check that if you'd like.
Yeah, I think that's right, Jim.
Okay. And so the DLP interns, are they paid in the same sort of manner?
I believe they're paid an hourly rate.
Okay, interns are hourly, okay.
Right.
Yes.
And what is their standard hourly rate?
Mm,
That one I don't know. You
Yeah,
know, Jim? I don't know.
I don't have that rate available. We can request that and get it to you. I'd be glad to provide that. It does vary depending on which intern program we're talking about, but we could provide a breakdown and give you the hourly rate depending on the program involved. Be glad to.
All right, how many intern programs do we have throughout the government?
Well, there's the DLP. That's the one that we administer here. That's the DLP. Those are your summer folks that come in and work over the summer.
Okay. And when you say they come in and work over the summer, is this a part of the DOES program exclusively, or is this something that we offer to the agencies throughout the government to have summer employment interns?
So the summer internship program that we handle, those are grade 5s for undergrad, and they are grade 7 for grad students. And what happens is they go through our program. They're sent out around the district to different agencies where they may have shown an interest. And then we also provide programs here in-house at DCHR throughout the summer to enrich those opportunities, to give them additional training on time management and how government works. That's all part of that internship program.
All right, and is it exclusive to the executive agencies, or do you have some in the legislative side of government? And then I have to ask you, how can I apply?
Everybody that we do with with the DLP internship program, they go around the district in the executive agencies.
Not open to the legislative agencies.
I don't.
But could be.
We could certainly discuss that if you would like.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. It would be a big help, particularly with research. It could help us a lot. So thank you for that. What about the apprenticeship programs? The funding for the apprenticeship programs, where do they fall in your budget?
That's a tough question. So first of all, we work that program in conjunction with DOES. DOES helps provide some of the funding for that. And so part of the challenge that we're having right now is just, will DOES have it in their budget to be able to continue to fund the program the way that we've been doing in the past? And I continue to work very closely with Director Unique Morris Hughes to figure that out, and to also work with the CA to see how we can continue that program.
And what is the level of funding for this year, FY23? Because it is in existence today.
For 23?
Uh-huh.
I don't have, Jim, do you have that number? I don't have that number in front of me. I can get it for you though.
I think that I do not have that handy. That's the MOU with DOES.
Yeah.
We can find that number. I think the MOU had not been executed, but we can look into that and provide the committee an answer.
All right. Did your agency provide us with a list of all of your MOUs and the dollar value of each?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I think okay. Thought we had that information. Staff is going to find it for me and bring it over. Tell us a little bit about the Early Out program.
I'm sorry, which program is that, ma'am?
The Early Out program, an early out retirement program.
Oh.
And if it includes the $25,000 cash payment, do we have any employees that are in that category this year or last year?
I can check. I know that we did, but the money itself, the actual 25,000 is all, first of all, it all has to be approved by the agency.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, that comes out of the agency budget. And so from time to time,
Yes.
agencies have that money available and they'll provide it. But it's not something that employees get as a matter of right. It is something that they get if they apply and the agency has the money in their budget and the agency agrees to pay the money.
And let me ask you, because of that, are the agencies required to allocate that chunk of money on an annual basis if they anticipate that they're going to offer this? I'm trying to understand how this early out program works. I know that, ultimately it's a device that you administer, but how does it work? What's the planning that must take place in order for it to happen?
So the planning doesn't actually occur here. It's a retirement incentive, and the agency will make the determination based on their budget, their personnel. They make that call on how they're going to administer that program. We just assist with the paperwork from our benefits administration. We assist with that, but it's the agency that actually determines what type of incentives it may or may not be offering in any given day or every given year, I should say.
And so what kind of, what I'm really asking is, in order for there to be retirement incentives, let's say from agency Q, in the FY24 budget, how is that done? Are you advised that this is likely to happen, or that the agency wants to do this before they put their budget together? How, I'm trying to understand the mechanics of it.
I know I keep saying it's an agency prerogative on how they decide to administer it. And so one of the things is that every year, sometimes there's savings that every agency may realize by vacancy savings, right? So they don't fill a certain number of positions over a certain amount of time, then they may say, hey, let's use this as a retirement incentive to help, sometimes get folks out the door. Sometimes people are ready to retire. They don't have the years. That money may get them over the hump if the agency has it. And so it is really up to the agency to decide how they want to administer any type of retirement incentive.
All right. And could you get me a list of those retirement incentives that we moved in FY21, 22, and 20, and to date in 23?
Okay, we can get that for you, sure.
Thank you. Can you explain what the Police and Fire Retirement Board is, and the role that the board plays within that agency? I know it's in the police department, which seems to be separate and apart, but it's also should be with you as well, Mr. Maxwell.
Sure. So we do administer a portion of that. That is housed here at DCHR. It is the area where when officers are injured or disabled, there's a process that they can go through to actually apply to be retired out, sometimes early. And so we administer that here. And our role here is just to be sure that all the paperwork is done, to be sure that if there needs to be a hearing, that a hearing is actually conducted. And we do all of that here in-house. And then the authority decides exactly how that case should be disposed of, adjudicated. And also, please keep in mind, it's not just DC police and firefighters. I believe it also subsumes, I think it's Capitol Police are also a part of what the employees that can apply.
Okay.
There's another law enforcement agency too. I'm just drawing a blank on that other agency.
I
Is it,
believe it includes in the federal side, it includes the, I think, non-uniform Secret Service,
Yes, that's it.
and I believe the Park Police.
Okay, interesting.
Thank you, Jim. I forgot those other two. Yes.
Okay, so this is not a process. Well, you weren't speaking of the employees' compensation fund.
No, I don't know what that.
Okay, okay, you don't know what that is. Okay, all right. So I won't ask you questions about it. I just thought it might be something, a little jewel within human resources that we had not discovered. It's probably in the chief financial officer's bailiwick where a lot of the money is. Okay, thank you for that. I think you have pretty much covered our questions. Do we have one more? Just give me 1 second, sir.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Thank you very much. This is a question that we're trying to understand. Under other services and charges, the agency has allocated funds towards payment of membership dues. Can you explain how these funds are allocated and whether the agency plans on exhausting the remaining funds in the next 6 months? In fact, under the category of other services and charges, it's proposed that you would spend 2.9 million, which is a 256% increase from previous year, including this year, where it's less than $1 million.
If I can jump in that particular category, as the Director Maxwell has indicated, that's where for FY24 is that additional $2.5 million that was mentioned earlier in a conversation today here in the questioning about the special initiatives for recruitment. That is all in that category of the other services, the comp source group 40, as you may recognize on table 3 of the budget chapter, shows the increase bringing it up to 2.9. Well, 2.5 of that is for this, I'll call it new initiative in FY24.
Okay, all right. So we have the accounting of that, and because in FY23, your approved budget for travel is about 46,000. And for your request was for 68,000 for FY24. Are we looking at the same numbers, sir?
Yeah, very, very similar. And I will
Okay.
say that historically, the agency has spent very close to budget. FY22, they spent approximately 99% of their local budget. So they're usually within 1% of spending all of the appropriation.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to make sure, again, trying to make sure we hold on to as many of the dollars as we possibly can. Not that there's a threat, Mr. Maxwell, but we don't know. You know how this is. When we get down to brass tacks, I can tell you in previous years, it's that 11th hour maneuver that I want to make sure that we can protect at all costs. So we can have the work done that needs to be done. I think that concludes our, yeah. You have taken a number of reductions in your budget, as has most of the agencies across the board. So thank you for that. I just want to make sure that you're not cutting it too close in your estimation, of course. Are you comfortable? You think you can get the work done with the budget that is before you? Or are there some real holes that you're concerned about?
No, I think that what we see in the budget is exactly what we need. But I'll take this opportunity to just bring back up one item that we touched on earlier, which is the Career Pathways Program. I know that a lot of that falls on DOES. But again, that's an agency that I believe still falls under your purview. Any assistance you can give us with ensuring that that DOES is properly funded to handle that program moving forward would be much appreciated by us. It's a special program, and we want to continue to work it. We think we've seen great strides, and we've been able to reap good benefits from it, and we want to see it continue.
All right, is that where the apprenticeship and internships, or is it just one or the other?
That's the apprenticeships I'm talking about.
The apprenticeships,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right. And you're going to provide me with a list of the different apprenticeships that you're concerned with?
Yes, ma'am.
Please, okay, thank you for that. And most definitely, I'm all on board with holding on to the jobs that we have,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
hopefully getting more people, more DC residents specifically into jobs. So
Yes.
that is the goal. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you all for your testimony today, and we'll be talking through this rest of the budget process. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll pause for a minute, and we're coming right back to you, Mr. Maxwell, because we want to talk about the other office, which is equally important. Just give us a second.
I'm not going anywhere.
Transition.
Right.
All right, thanks. All right. And now we will turn our attention to the Office of Labor Relations and Collective Bargaining. And in that position is the acting director, again, Mr. Lindsay Maxwell. And I'm happy to swear you in. I'll just read a few little points for the public about the Office of Labor Relations and Collective Bargaining. It is the principal advocate for the district's labor management program, and the office is responsible for negotiating agreements between the district government and labor organizations. They are also primarily the litigators for the district's labor disputes. And additionally, the office is responsible for managing agreements that cover thousands of district employees. And so with that, I am going to give Mr. Maxwell an opportunity to make a statement. He has raised his right hand, and I will not ask you to raise your right hand again and be sworn in. It is the same day, ladies and gentlemen, as we began. And so, Mr. Maxwell, please make your statement.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds and members of the committee. I apologize, I just lost my testimony. Here we go. I'm Lindsay Maxwell. I'm the Director of the Office of Labor Relations and Collective Bargaining. I'm pleased to testify before you today. Last month, Mayor Bowser presented the fiscal year FY24 Fair Shot budget, which is designed to invest in the district's long-term growth after recovering from the challenges that were presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. The FY24 budget also invests in growth opportunities for residents and businesses in all 8 wards and demonstrates the administration's commitment to equitably build and revitalize Washington, D.C. In keeping with this spirit, the Office of Labor Relations and Collective Bargaining, otherwise known as OLRCB, FY24 budget further invests in strengthening the district's labor relations program, particularly given the many sacrifices that management and our labor partners made together during the pandemic in order to ensure that the district remained operational and continued to serve the district's residents and visitors. I'll keep my formal remarks brief to allow ample time for discussion and any questions that you may have. OLRCB, as you stated, is the executive's representative in labor relations and collective bargaining matters for agencies under the mayor's personnel authority. Our mission is to administer a comprehensive and centralized labor relations program on behalf of the mayor. OLRCB works to achieve its mission by negotiating collective bargaining agreements representing management in related labor litigation, arbitration, and mediations. We also provide training necessary to minimize litigation and to ensure effective administration of the district's labor relations and contractual and legal obligations. The District of Columbia government's unionized workforce represents approximately 27,000 people, or 75% of our total employees. In that regard, OLRCB serves as the executive's representative in labor relations and collective bargaining matters as we administer the labor relations program for agencies under the mayor's personnel authority by negotiating collective bargaining agreements and representing management in related labor litigation. It is my sincere belief that positive employee and labor relations is essential to creating a healthy and productive work environment. This is why OLRCB's approach to administering labor relations program is to do so in a manner that enhances efficiency of government operations while also recognizing and respecting employee rights. In FY23, we continued our tradition of regularly meeting and engaging with labor leaders to discuss and develop consensus on a broad range of topics. OLRCB has and continues to have an open door policy and a direct line of communication between myself and local labor presidents to facilitate a collaborative approach to addressing labor relation matters in the District of Columbia. To carry out these functions, OLRCB is divided into 3 sections: the negotiations and contract administration section, the litigation section, and the administrative support section. The negotiations and contract administration section is responsible for negotiating collective bargaining agreements, the process by which wages, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment for unionized employees are established. Training management representatives on the provisions of each working condition CBA as applicable to their respective agencies, and conducting impact and effects bargaining over subject that are statutorily deemed management rights. The litigation section is focused on initiating, prosecuting, defending, and monitoring a wide range of litigation activity for and on behalf of agencies under the personnel authority of the mayor. This litigation activity consists primarily of grievance arbitrations, unfair labor practice complaints, enforcement actions, and arbitration review requests before the Public Employee Relations Board, or PERB. Litigation activity also flows from interest arbitrations, negotiability appeals, and similar actions that directly arise from the negotiation activities carried out by OLRCB. The administration section is responsible for providing general agency support, conducting research and analysis necessary to support management position during negotiations. This section conducts training for agencies regarding the labor relations program and the legal obligations which emanate from DC law and the CBAs. This section also supports the negotiations and litigation section, providing human resources, contracting and procurement, and other related customer and operational services for the agency. Finally, this section supports the Negotiated Employee Assistance Home Purchase Program, or NEHAP, a benefit which assists unionized district employees with closing costs and down payments for homes they seek to buy within the district. This benefit was established through collective bargaining with compensation units 1 and 2, the district's largest union. OLRCB partners with the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Greater Washington Urban League to assist in administering the program to eligible unionized employees. In FY23, OLRCB staff includes 17 full-time equivalent positions or FTEs. Of those positions, 11 are designated for attorneys, 5 are for administration and program support, and 1 is designated for the director. Attorneys are directly involved in carrying out the primary mission of the office by providing advice, counsel, and representation to agencies on all matters concerning labor relations. Attorneys actively negotiate CBAs with representatives of the various labor organizations representing district government employees, in addition to litigating matters across from the unions and on behalf of the executive. The administrative and program staff support the director and attorneys and assist in carrying out the office's customer service and other district mandates. Their role is critical in the office's efforts to administer an efficient labor relations program because they are often the first point of contact with the public, employees, management, and labor representatives with whom we interact daily. With OLRCB's FY23 budget, the agency is in the process of procuring a document management system that we will use to store and organize all documents related to litigations, negotiation, training, and advisement. In FY24, OLRCB will hire file clerk contractors to catalog and archive OLRCB's historical documents in preparation for migration to the new document management system. These key investments help to free up our attorneys, allowing them to focus resources and efforts on litigating cases and negotiating contracts, including closing out a historic 9 compensation CBAs in the past calendar year. Among them, the Council of Interns and Residents, Teamsters Local 639 at the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, the DC Nurses Association, the Council of School Officers, the Federation of Administrative Law Judges, and the Fraternal Order of Police at the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as the International Association of Firefighters Local 36. OLRCB's proposed fiscal year 24 budget of $3.3 million consists entirely of local funds. Approximately $2.5 million of these funds is dedicated to personnel services, and approximately $782,000 is dedicated to non-personnel services. OLRCB's proposed personal services funding supports all 17 FTEs. Overall, OLRCB's proposed FY24 budget represents an increase of $150,000 or 5% from the previous fiscal year budget. In closing, the resources allocated to OLRCB will play a critical role in supporting Mayor Bowser's commitment to continue to build a more equitable recovery for the district's residents and businesses, and also for its labor force. The council and this committee are critical allies in this effort, and I appreciate your work to ensure we operate efficiently and effectively. I look forward to our continued work together to achieve our shared goals and to give all residents a fair shot to benefit from Washington, D.C.'s continued prosperity. We've come a long way, and we will continue to come back stronger than before. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maxwell. Again, I wanted to start with understanding your 17 FTEs. Did you sustain any cuts during this budget planning cycle?
I don't believe we did. No.
Okay, all right. And so the 17 you're telling us today includes this new position that you wanted, consulting services for a labor economist, correct? The 150,000.
I don't think that's right. The support services 300. I'm sorry. That's for consulting services. That's not for an employee. That's for the consulting services that we use to actually negotiate our contracts. We hire an outside firm that gives us market breakdowns on things like the consumer price index and trends in the labor market and interest rates, so that we can go to the table when we negotiate agreements and do so in a way where we're very well informed about what the market conditions are.
Okay, so it does include the 150,000 for that.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. I'm reading from the budget book, so I was like, okay, let's be on the same page. All right, very good. Thank you for that. And thank you for the description of how that employee or that contractor will be used and its value in the work that you do. I wanted to ask a little bit about tell us what this agency does as it relates to the negotiating employee assistance home purchase program. I'm familiar with HPAP.
Sure.
You know, I'm one of the authors of increasing the funds on that. So I wanted to know a little more about this
Sure.
part of it.
Our involvement has traditionally been twofold. First of all, when we go to the table to negotiate, one of the things that we negotiate with the union is how much money is going to be put into that fund. And so that is an item that we negotiate at the table. So our involvement, first of all, is there so that we can negotiate with the union how much gets put in. And then our second touch point is once we get somebody who applies for the fund, somebody who's actually buying a house, the application goes, I believe, to the Urban League, and then the Urban League reaches out to us for us to verify that the actual union member is verified, that they are working, that they are a member of the union, and that they can actually go ahead and move forward with dispersing the funds.
All right.
2 years ago, just before the pandemic, we actually took an additional role, which was we provided, and OLRCB did this totally on its own. It brought together the actual, some of the banks that are involved, and we put together sort of an education seminar for some of the union members that wanted to learn more about the program. We just haven't had a chance to do that. It doesn't work so well when it's virtual. It actually comes off as something that's a little boring. So we haven't actually picked up on it again, but it is something that I'd like for us to revisit maybe next year.
Okay. And so when you say you negotiate with the union, does that mean with each union there's a separate negotiation, or is it unions collectively?
I'm talking about specifically comp units 1 and 2, which is actually inclusive of probably about 20 or so different unions or locals that are dispersed across the government. They're our largest swath of unionized employees. I believe is roughly 11 or 12,000 of them.
All right. And so collectively, you all decide what will be the value of a agreement that the employee has in making the home purchase.
We confirm, you mean on the backside with the Urban League?
Yes, when you say you negotiate with, it says you assist with closing costs and down payments. So I'm trying to understand what is it that you are assisting with, because you know for the regular HPAP program, there is, you know, a salary line that an employee, that an individual may be making, and it gives them a guide as to they can get that another set amount of money based on the size of their household and their income level.
Right. If they're in comp units 1 and 2, what we do is we negotiate on the front side on how much money goes into the fund. The contract actually specifies if the funds are actually depleted, comp units 1 and 2 can come back to the city administrator to negotiate for additional funds to be put in. This has been an effort that the mayors undertook a while back. It's a very important program. And so we've always made a way to ensure that there are additional funds available for that program if they have been depleted. And I think the last time they were depleted was at the end of, I want to say 2020 or 2021. The other place where we get involved obviously is when the employee says, hey, I am now buying a home. They go to the Urban League, they fill out the application is at the Urban League. The Urban League will then reach out to us for verification of employment, verification of union status. Once we give them the green light, then the Urban League moves forward to finish processing that application and decide how much funds are to be dispersed to that member based on their purchase.
All right. Okay. So the standards that we have for the HPAP program are the same standards as that are used in this, but it's just your agency is concerned with making sure that there is an amount of funding that's in the bucket that can be extracted by individual members of the union.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, just, that's an important point. Thank you for that. The 11 attorneys that are a complement of your 17 full-time equivalents, are they all working within the litigation section?
Well, all of our attorneys actually do both contract negotiations and they also do litigation. But we don't have any attorneys who just do one and not the other.
Okay.
They all work on both sides of the house.
So do they also participate in the administrative section with is conducting training for agencies?
Okay, so we do have, traditionally, we've had our supervisory attorney and one other attorney that will go out and do the training for our agencies on collective bargaining agreements, what changes there have been. And so, yes, the administration section actually handles the administrative part, which is usually putting together the presentation, working the logistics for getting a room or setting it up on Zoom. But then we have two attorneys that actually do the training.
Okay, just trying to understand what the so with the negotiations and the contract, you're saying negotiations and contract administration along with the litigation, those attorneys kind of work together. And so, or the attorneys work in both divisions, correct?
They work on
And
both.
then for the training or the administrative side, you have the supervising attorney and one other attorney that actually conduct those training sessions.
That's correct.
All right. And so for the negotiations with Comp 1 and 2 labor, are attorneys involved in that, or is it just administrative staff?
No, it's only attorneys are involved in the actual negotiation of CBAs. And we do, every CBA is different. So the team is different. Usually any team, when we negotiate a CBA for a specific agency, usually we have a couple of members of the agency who are on a negotiations team. And then we always do at least two attorneys from OLRCB on that team as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I believe thank you very much for your testimony today. We look forward to holding on to your budget and as we move through the council process. Thank you so very much. Thanks to you and your staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilperson. We look forward to continue working with you. And thank you, Dr. Hurley, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hurley. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Scott with Councilmember Bonds' office. We're going to break until 2 p.m. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank the government witnesses and their staff for participating in today's budget oversight hearing. I'm hopeful for the work that lies ahead of us and look forward to continuing to develop relationships with today's agencies. If the public has any additional thoughts or would like to submit written testimony regarding the performance of these agencies, please email it to seal@dccouncil.gov. That is CEAL is CEAL. Again, the agencies that we examined today are the Office of Labor Relations and Collective Bargaining, the Department of Human Resources, and the Office of Public Employee Relations Board. The hearing record will close in 10 calendar days from today on Friday, April 21, 2023 at 5 p.m. The committee's next and final budget oversight hearing will be tomorrow, Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, and we will begin at 12 noon. We will start with the Workforce Investment Council, the Department of Employment Services, where we will hear from the agency's government witnesses. And that will be followed by the Office of Employee Appeals and the Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel and the Executive Office of the Mayor. So with that said, the time is now 1:35 p.m. on the 11th of April, 2023. And this hearing is adjourned.